All right. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Having a fantastic week, a beautiful day, and a beautiful weekend ahead of you. I'm doing great and glad to be here with you. Always happy to see you. We're talking about hydration today, which is arguably the most important metric of all. But I'm going to wait until we get a few more people with us before we jump on in. In the meantime, good to see if you're joining us now. Good to see you. I see many of you are jumping in. Glad to see you here. Hello there, Diana, Spider Logic. Tessa, good to see you. Hello there. Aminata, nice to see you here. Prasa Devarma. Okay, I can't read that. Good to see you. Glad you're here. All right, and I missed some few people at the beginning. Let's see, Sal, the Lady Lachey, Deborah, Blind Love Deb, looking for Combi. I can't see everybody. Paradigm. Anyway, I'm glad you're all here. Good to see you. Alice, hello there. Glad to see you here with us. Greetings. I hope you've had a fantastic week. I hope you're making excellent choices. You know, I hear from people all the time who know what to do. They're clear on what needs to happen, and yet they're finding it difficult to consistently make the best choices. And so I want to remind everybody, come this way. I want to remind everybody that it's nothing more than just the willingness to get started, right? We can change anytime, in any moment. We can make better choices. We just have to be willing to get started. And once we do, it takes some effort sometimes at first. If we're talking about creating whole new choices, new habits, it may not be the easiest thing in the world initially, but it gets easier. And so what you do is you apply yourself, you stick with it. Before you know it, you've got new habits. 30 degrees in the UK today. Wow. Okay. That's I know that's unusual. Well, I guess it is summertime, so maybe not so unusual. It happens. Hope you're enjoying the warmth. I know it's not always so common. I actually just got off the phone with the guy up in Birmingham. So he didn't tell me how warm it was there. We didn't talk about that. But anyway, all right, Massimo has a question here. What do you think about the UV? What do you think about UV ages your skin? Should we avoid the sun? Top anti-aging experts like David Sinclair is saying you should wear sunscreen all the time. Okay, so UV does not age the skin. Excessive UV ages the skin. You need UVB because vitamin D is a hormone that your body produces, right, in the presence of UVB radiation, which we get when the sun is highest in the sky. So should you avoid sunlight? No. Should you wear sunscreen all the time? No. Sunscreens are, generally speaking, harmful. Now, there are some less toxic alternatives now, but you don't want to burn your skin, but you definitely don't want to avoid sunlight. And David Sinclair is a great guy. He's got a lot of good information, but David Sinclair also says you shouldn't fast, right? He doesn't understand a lot of things, right? So he's definitely got a lot of great stuff he's worked out. He understands we want to eat less. He understands, I think, that it should be plant-based. But I would not go to David Sinclair to get all the answers. Okay, clearly not. What's natural for us? We're tropical animals meant to be running around in our birthday costumes, right, naked in the tropics. We would get, and we were not going to be, baking in the sun all the time because it's too hot to do that. But it feels amazing on a cool morning, right? And it cools off at night. Well, up in the mountains anyway. To get sunlight. So I got sunshine every day when I was in the tropics, every single day. Okay, no hat, no shirt, off. Right now, people working outside are wearing protection because you need to. Because if you're working, and you're not under trees, yeah, it's going to be too much. We wouldn't be doing that if we lived in nature. We'd be protecting ourselves. We'd be getting out of the sun when it was at the highest, right? We'd be running around when it was cooler, like every other species does. Super active in the morning and late afternoon and evening, but not so much in the middle of the day. Okay. Uh, Prasad, it's Prasad, isn't it? Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Carly, good to see you. I'll come to your question in a moment. So we definitely don't want to avoid sunlight. What you want to do is you want to avoid getting too much. Now, what David Sinclair doesn't understand, because he's never eaten a fruit-based diet, is that when you eat a fruit-based diet, your skin is protected. Okay, you probably can't see the watermelon behind those water bottles, but I can't reach it. But you're eating things that have been sitting in the sun. You get the benefit of the compounds that protect the fruits. Okay, so we don't need to avoid the sun. We don't. Okay, we don't need to avoid the sun. Let's see how David Sinclair looks when he's my age. All right, I'm not so sure he's going to age as well. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, and I'm not saying I've done everything perfectly. I mean, I don't know what David Sinclair first 25 years were like, but mine, I partied pretty hard from the time I was 14 to 25. So I had a lot to overcome. Okay, I got very sick at 23 because of that and needed to overcome these things. All right. Let's see. So hello there, PB&J. Do you think kids, toddlers, and older should eat mostly, if not only, fruits? Yes, of course. Human beings of all sizes, colors, and shapes should eat fruit and leafy greens. Like every other species on the planet, there's one diet for every species. We're no different. Okay, our bodies are perfectly adapted to eat fruit. They're not adapted for animal products. They're not adapted for most vegetables. We're meant to eat fruit and soft leaves. And it doesn't matter how old the child is. That's what we're meant to be eating. Okay, now obviously, infants should be consuming breast milk, human breast milk. That's what they're meant for. Okay, do you know fasting could have helped John Robbins, who just passed with post-polio syndrome? I had not heard about John Robbins passing. I'm sorry to hear that. I had the privilege of speaking with John Robbins. I was a co-keynote speaker with him at an event in Vancouver, British Columbia many years ago. He's a very nice guy. He worked hard to spread the word about eating plant-based diets. Fasting could have almost certainly helped John Robbins. They help everyone. Okay, if John never fasted, then he was walking around with all the garbage he'd been collecting since he was born, since he stopped drinking his mother's milk. Even drinking his mother's milk, if his mother's diet wasn't perfect, and he came from an ice cream family, so it wasn't. He was taking toxins into his body even as an infant, drinking his mother's milk, as most of us did. I mean, I don't know anyone whose mother had a perfect diet. It was perfectly clean. I certainly took toxins in from my mother's diet, okay, and from her existing situation. But fasting is what every animal, every species uses to allow the body to heal. Healing is a biological process. Only the body can heal the body. Fasting simply allows us to get out of the body's way. Okay, I wish someone had contacted me and asked me about it. I would have been happy to help him. The body, now, could it have saved his life? I don't know. It depends on at what point he approached it. Sometimes by the time someone comes to it, it's too late for the body to be able to heal because there's been so much damage already done. Okay, but our bodies are meant to function at an incredibly high level of health and vitality, and for a long time. Now, John was probably 15, 20 years older than me, so he might have already been 80, I would guess, somewhere around 80. I don't know. I haven't seen him in a long, long time. But no one needs to die of disease. No one needs to die of disease. Okay, we're all meant to die of natural death. At some point, the body wears out and simply stops living. But we don't ever need to deal with diseases. Those are things that happen because of toxicity primarily. Okay, that's the primary cause of disease. Theo says, "Hi, Loren, what are you eating nowadays in Florida? Can you find organic quality produce?" Yeah, so I've got a couple watermelons. I've got apricots, nectarines, cherries. This is cherry season. I love cherries. So I'm eating cherries at least 3 or 4 times a week. And cherries will be gone soon, right? It's a relatively short window. I eat them while they're available. Same with peaches and nectarines. Apricots, so far, I haven't found very many good ones. I love apricots when they're good. Most apricots I'm finding aren't very good, but I keep trying. Every couple of weeks I'll buy some more apricots and give them a try. We'll see. Nothing else on the counter. In the fridge, I've got some avocados, and the fridge, and some tomatoes. In the fridge, I've got cucumbers, a red pepper, some lettuce. I think the cherries are in there. I think that's about it. I think that's what I have right now. And that, I'm good for the next 3 or 4 days. I'll actually Sunday, advertising for you, Paul. Paul Nissan, old friend, acquaintance, guy I've known for a long time, is co-sponsoring the Florida Mango Festival. That's on Sunday in West Palm Beach, and I will be there, and I'll be eating them. I've got some mangoes. Got some mangoes in the fridge because they were super ripe. I bought some at a farmer's market on Saturday in Miami. They were amazing. I have a couple left, but they needed to be refrigerated. So I've got some mangoes as well, and I'll be eating a lot more mangoes this weekend. That's for sure. Let's see. Good morning, Judy. Hello there, Judy. Good to see you. Glad you're doing well. Barbara says, Barbara, wow, long time. Hi, Loren. How are you? Just wondering what your thoughts on listening to a bit of music from the radio while doing a week's water fast. Well, it's okay to listen to some music. Ideally, it would be classical music, Baroque classical music, which does very specific beneficial things to brain waves. The next best choice would be something that was melodic, soft rock, that kind of thing. Nothing too hard, nothing too intense. That actually does negative things to brain waves and to our frequency, to the body itself. So, but generally speaking, what you want to do, Barbara, as I think is rest as completely as possible without engaging your brain in any way. So meditation, just resting with your eyes closed, grounding on the earth. These things are always the best way to go. You're very welcome, Massimo. Paul is a great guy. Yeah, Paul's a good guy. All right, let me see here if there's anything else, and if we're going to soon talk a little bit more about hydration. Frieder Kevin says, so when I want to eat more healthy, which is fruits and greens, what can I eat coming from a traditional diet living in Germany? Thanks. Fruits and greens. I'm a little confused by your question, Kevin. Fruit eater Kevin, I would guess you already are eating fruit. And the answer is fruit and greens. So even in Germany, now in the wintertime, there's not so many options, and it's not that different here in Florida. In the wintertime in the U.S., I spent the first half of the winter in South Florida. I spent the second half of the winter after my mother took ill. I drove back to Houston and was there until about 3 weeks ago, making sure she was okay every day until she passed 2 months later, and then taking care of everything I could in Houston, wrapping up all of her affairs and so forth. There's a lot to do, and we have no family in that part of the country, so it was up to me to be on site. My sister took on a lot of that, formally, legally, but she's not on site. So it was actually up to to me to do as much of that as I could, actually being there. And it wasn't so different. Apples, pears, citrus, bananas, kiwis. There are grapes some months there's some berries. You don't have nearly the abundance of options we have now with melons and peaches and all the stone fruits. So yeah, you would eat mono fruit meals, simple green salads. I would encourage you to, and everyone, to stick with the highest water, and it's a perfect segue, the highest water containing fruits possible, because over the last 20, I think it's been 20 and a half years now, I've measured more than 8,000 people's level of hydration, and most people are severely dehydrated. Okay. Most people are severely dehydrated. And this is always surprising to people. Well, we won't go there yet. We'll go there soon. But well, I'll say what's always surprising to people is that many fruitarians are significantly dehydrated. Okay, how's that possible? Someone asked me yesterday, how is it possible for someone who is eating a fruit-based diet to be significantly dehydrated? Okay, I see it over and over again. I mean, literally over and over again. I'm fasting people right now who've been living on fruit-based diets who are severely dehydrated. How's that possible? We're going to come to that. Okay, if you're not clear about that, we're going to get there soon. I don't know what fascia is in the leg. How often do you wake up feeling thirsty with or without dry mouth? Why? I never wake up feeling thirsty. Never may be a bit of a stretch. For me to wake up feeling thirsty means I ate a bunch of dehydrated food the day before. That's the only time. Now, I work with people all the time, right now with people who are eating a fruit-based diet who wake up thirsty because their body's dehydrated. And so they're going to wake up thirsty because over the course of that 8 or 10 hours they've been laying in bed, they weren't drinking anything, and they're going to wake up with a dry mouth. That doesn't happen once your body is actually fully hydrated. Do you have any experience with reversing osteopetrosis? I think you mean osteoporosis, and the answer is yes. Numerous experiences, and we have no problem doing that. I have a sour apple tree in my yard. Well, that's cool. Cherry tree, sour cherry tree. Okay. All right, good. I prefer the sweet cherries myself. I've got both Bing and Rainier cherries here. They're both amazing. Some of my favorite things. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. I wouldn't recommend doing smoothies with apples and frozen mangoes. I would recommend eating mono fruit meals. Okay, smoothies are always compromises. The body creates the perfect environment to digest one thing at a time, and so you want to digest one thing at a time. So my meals are nearly always mono. The exception is salads. It's especially important that meals are mono with fruits. With fruits, why with fruits? Because of the sugar. Because when we combine fruits with other fruits and with other things, we wind up creating fermentation. So salads, I encourage people to keep them very simple, and my own salads are usually no more than 4 or 5 ingredients, but I don't eat, I'm not eating just lettuce, and I probably will never do that. I'm eating salads. Last night they were wrapped up. You can take a romaine leaf and put, I had cucumber, noodles, and red pepper strips and some tomato and some avocado. Delicious. It takes no time to prepare. That's what I like doing. Spending no time preparing, almost no time cleaning up, and very easy to digest. And with salads, perfectly fine as long as it's only a few things. With fruits, you want to eat mono meals, and my fruit meals are almost always mono. So just cherries, just watermelon, just mangoes. Oh, I also have 2 papayas in the fridge, which are also ripe enough that they needed to be refrigerated. Sometimes I wish I needed more food. I only eat 1,000 calories a day, once or twice a day, and so I'll buy things that I then don't have a chance to eat. I have to put them in the fridge because I have more food than I can eat in the time it takes all the food to ripen. It's a good problem to have, because the more efficient your body is, the less food you need, and the longer you live, the more slowly you age. All things being equal. Again, go through a lot of stress. I've done some of that. That's aging. That has some impact on us. It's not the stress. It's how we deal with it. No, osteopetrosis really just, okay, I don't know what that is, osteopetrosis. So I have to look that up. Obviously, it's a bone-related issue, but petrosis, I don't know. I'll have to look that up. Now, here's the thing, okay? A condition I've not heard of before. But healing is a biological process. So it doesn't matter what the condition is, the way to heal anything is the way to heal everything. We heal best by getting out of the body's way and allowing it to cleanse and heal itself. And that means fasting. Water only fasting allows the body to heal as efficiently and as effectively as possible. If you're interested, private message me. We can talk about what's going on, but I would be happy to help. And fasting is always the way to heal the body as quickly and as effectively as possible. Okay, if the body can heal, that's going to be the way to do it. All right? I hope that makes sense. Yeah, you can eat as many apples as you need to feel satisfied. I'll eat 4 to 6 apples at a time as well, and then I don't need any more, and I'm done. That's it. I'll eat 4 to 6 peaches, only four if they're very small. Otherwise, it would be more like 6. Apples, 4 or 5 is usually enough. Sometimes I'll eat 6. But yes, we want to eat monofruit meals, however much you need to satisfy yourself. It's the bone and bone formation or marble bone disease. Okay. So how we heal anything, the same. Okay. The body heals itself when we get out of the way, give it the chance to focus all of its energy on healing. It doesn't matter what's going on. That's always what works best. Do your clients ever experience thirst, possibly with dry mouth, even though they have enough blood volume? Should they necessarily get more water, ignore their thirst? Yeah, blood volume is only one of the things we're looking at. So yeah, someone could have all the blood they need and still be dehydrated. Okay, one cannot not have all the blood they need and be hydrated, but one can have all the blood they need even if they're dehydrated. Okay, so if they're dehydrated, they're going to feel dry mouth. Okay, they're going to feel thirsty and they need to drink more water. If you feel thirsty, if your mouth is dry, you need to drink more water. Okay, always. Okay, in the winter, I eat only oranges and lettuce. Okay, so I don't know if this is Anna in Bosnia, but even in the wintertime in Bosnia, you've got other options, right? So I would eat oranges and lettuce and tomatoes and avocados, and I might eat bananas sometimes. They're not hydrating. They're not so hydrating, and I'm not a huge fan of normal bananas, the ones you're going to get there in Europe and in the U.S. I had 18 varieties of bananas in Costa Rica, and there's some bananas that are amazing, but I would be eating those things. You've got other citrus you can eat. You can eat grapefruits and pomelos and tangerines. You can eat apples and pears. You can eat some pomegranates late in the fall, and you can eat some berries. I would encourage you to increase your diet because you don't want to live on only 1 or 2 things for any length of time. People do it, but it's not a good idea. And there's absolutely zero benefits to doing that. Okay. So the only thing that happens when you limit your intake of variety, your varietal intake, what happens is you wind up creating some nutrient deficiencies or imbalances. Okay, so you don't want to do that. All right. I feel very bloated, but I can only drink 1 liter of water a day. So much reflux, even with water. What can I do? You can learn how to drink more water. What you should do is you should fast with me so you can correct the underlying issue. Okay, because 1 liter of water is not enough. And you're clearly, there's an issue there that you're not addressing. You need to address it properly by fasting long enough and properly. You're very welcome. Okay, you do that, and all of a sudden the long-term issues go away. Okay. All right. I know that isolated fructose is not the same as fructose in fresh, ripe fruits, but is there a limit to how much fructose from fruit we should eat? No. And how important is the fructose to glucose ratio? It's not important at all unless you happen to be very sensitive to fructose. Some people are fructose intolerant, and they need to eat fruits that are at least, that have a majority of glucose. For most people that are fructose intolerant, the most sensitive people have trouble even when fructose is a relatively small percentage. They might need to avoid fructose-containing fruits altogether. But with most people, as long as fructose isn't more than half of the sugar, they're perfectly fine. So as long as glucose makes up more than half the sugars there, they should be perfectly fine. Okay, the rest of us don't have to worry about this at all. You can eat all the fruit you need, regardless of fructose content. You can eat all the fruit you need until you feel satisfied, until you meet your body's needs. So what you need and what I need and what your next door neighbor needs and what your cousin needs are going to be different because our bodies are different, our levels of efficiency are different. There's lots of different factors. Okay, but you don't have to worry about fructose at all. Fructose is a problem when you take away the water and fiber. When we're eating fruit, which contains fresh fruit, that is not dry fruit, but fresh fruit with ample water and fiber, the fructose content is a non-issue. It's a non-issue. It's something you never, ever need to think about. Not ever. All right. So, but they might argue, do you have the autopsy endoscopy to back that fruitarians are dehydrated? No, I don't need autopsies to demonstrate that someone's dehydrated. We can measure hydration in living people. I've measured the hydration of hundreds of fruitarians, and most of them, and thank you for the beautiful segue again, most of them are dehydrated. Why? Why are they dehydrated? So let's start by talking about how people become dehydrated. Okay? And again, I mean, I apologize maybe too much. You know, some of you have been around for a long time. You're going to hear a lot of my stories. You will have heard them before, right? If not, okay, I don't recognize your screen name, but if you've eaten corn chips before, you know they're pretty dry, right? They're not completely dry. They actually have 3% water on average, okay? And that's not much because white bread is 50% water. Doesn't look like it, but it is. If you squeeze it hard enough, you can actually squeeze water. You can get water drops. You're not going to get drops of water from a corn chip. Okay, it's as close to being completely dry as is possible because if something's very dry, what happens? It absorbs water from the environment. So 3% is very, very low. Now here's the question, the operative question. When the corn chips leave your body again through the back door, are they as dry as when they went in? Well, you better hope not. Okay, if they're as dry as when they went in, you're going to be very, very uncomfortable. Okay, because they're hard and sharp and it's going to be painful. They're not. They go in dry, they come out wet. What happens? Where does the water come from? Well, the answer is it comes from your body. Okay, so every species on the planet, I mean, basically, there are many different types of species in terms of diet, right? We can classify omnivores and carnivores and herbivores and gramnivores and foliivores and insectivores and many, many other types of classifications of species by their diet. Frugivores, of course, right? These are all dietary classifications, scientific classifications. Fruitarian is not scientific. Frugivore is scientific, okay? There are frugivorous animals that eat fruit-based diets. It doesn't mean they only eat fruit. Okay, in nature, there are very few animals that only eat fruit. Chimps and bonobos, who are 99% identical genetically and have almost the same digestive tract, eat fruit and leaves and almost nothing else. Soft, tender leaves, by the way. They eat only the tip of a soft, tender leaf and throw the rest away. Okay, why? Because they're eating the softest part of a soft, tender leaf. Okay, they don't eat the rest because too much cellulose, too much fiber that the body can't digest. Doesn't help us if we can't digest it. So a lot of people are eating things like broccoli and cauliflower and kale, cabbage, which I don't own. There is none of that stuff in my kitchen. There won't be. The vast majority, I mean, every once in a while we might have some cruciferous vegetable, like if for some particular recipe or something, but it's not something I eat very often. When I do eat them, I typically don't feel as good because they're hard to digest. And my body's not used to having to digest things that it's not meant to digest. Now, obviously, if you eat cabbage every day, you become accustomed to it. But you're wasting energy, and it contains anti-nutrients. Okay, it contains goitrogenic compounds that make your right. We create problems for ourselves. We don't want to be doing this, right? You don't want to have a goiter. But that's what happens. So Every species, whether they're eating just plants, I mean, imagine the plant eaters are eating leaves and shoots and fruits and roots. What do these things all have in common, aside that they're parts of plants? They're all very high in water. Okay. Carnivores, animals that eat animals, do what? They bite through the jugular vein of their prey. They drink all the blood. Okay. Every species, like us humans, your brain is about 3 pounds. Okay. If you're 150 pounds, it's a pretty tiny percentage of your overall weight. Okay. It's a tiny percentage. I mean, 15 pounds is 10%. So we're talking about 3% of your weight, 2%, excuse me, 2% of your weight, but it's getting 35% of your blood supply. That's how important the brain is. Well, the same is true in relative numbers for other species. The vast majority of blood goes to the brain. So when they bite through the arteries, the carotid artery and the jugular vein, brain blood is going both ways. That's to carotid artery. Jugular vein is from the brain. What happens? They drink all the blood. They drink all the blood, then they tear them open, eat the water-rich internal organs, and then they eat the muscle meat, which is all humans do. Humans cut off the muscle and eat that, okay, after cooking most of the water out of it most of the time. Okay, but real carnivores are getting high water content diets like every other species. High water content diets exclusively across nature. Except for who? Except for humans and the animals we feed. Humans feed animals dry kibble. Dogs and cats get fed dry food. I would never feed an animal dry food again. It dehydrates them and makes them ill. Okay, dehydration is the number one cause of disease. Dehydration. Okay, we need to stay hydrated. When we eat conventionally, we become more dehydrated with every single meal. If you're eating conventionally, you don't have enough time to safely consume enough water to undo the damage you're creating by your diet. Okay, but fruitarians don't eat dry food. They're eating very wet food. How can someone eating a fruit-based diet be dehydrated? Well, the answer is very simple. Okay, the answer is that when we eat a diet, a conventional diet, right, a diet of bread and pasta and grains and cereals and all the stuff that people eat, which is very low in water, we become more and more dehydrated, and our long, tortuous small intestines do not efficiently pass everything through when we're eating things that are low in water and fiber. And of course, conventional diets are not just low in water, they also tend to contain very little fiber, right? I mean, think about it. How much fiber in your bread? How much your breakfast cereals? Most of these things are relatively low in fiber because the fiber is processed out. Most of the things people eat processed foods, no fiber. No fiber, no water. What happens? Stuff gets stuck. This is very real. Okay. I know there are people out there who think it doesn't exist. They don't know what they're talking about. It's very, very real. If you fast with me and did it correctly, follow my directions, you eliminated pounds and pounds of old hard material. Okay. That old hard material that comes out of your body once you begin refeeding is not from the watermelons and papayas or oranges and apples. It's not from the fruits and leafy greens you're eating. When you're eating fruits and leafy greens, your stools are quick, easy, painless, clean, and odor-free every single time. If they're not, it means either you ate something else or there's something else in there, right? You're eliminating something from before. If your diet really is that clean, you're still having stools that way, that means that you're eliminating some old hard material from the stuff you ate before, stuff that's low in water and fiber, which gets stuck and then becomes hard. Everybody has this stuff in their body. Every single person I've ever fasted, nearly 12,000 people now over nearly 30 years, if they follow directions, if they drink enough water. Okay, the way most people fast, they don't move this stuff out of their bodies. Okay, because they're not getting enough water, or they're not getting the water in safely and correctly. Okay, I'm going to answer a quick question here. Sorry if this is a repeat info. Are people able to fast with you in person or only at home? Only remotely. Okay. I no longer have a fasting center. You can thank a collection of assholes for that. That's gone. And right now, all I have is remote fasting. But remote fasting is amazing. I've guided well over 1,000 people this way. I see amazing results consistently. If you're coachable, it'll be the best thing you've ever done. And unfortunately, I mean, your alternative, you could go someplace like True North or somewhere else where they don't have a clue what they're doing. Yep, I've said it. They're giving people electrolytes while they're fasting. They're telling them to limit their water intake. They're keeping them active. They are not getting close to the same results. Not even close. Okay, so there are no plans at this point for an in-person fasting retreat. I'm not sure I'm ever going to do that again. We'll see. It's occupied almost all of my time for the last 29 and a half years. And I think I'm just going to be working remotely with people now. Yeah, perfect. Email me, message me privately, and I'll be happy to contact you. All right. Okay, so if you're eating a fruit-based diet and you haven't removed pounds and pounds of old hard material, you are dehydrated. Now, I spoke to I am working with a man now, and today I'm looking at his numbers. It looks like he's hydrated based on some numbers, but deep crevices in his face. Okay, not even 40. Okay, at 40, you should have smooth skin, supple, elastic, lack of wrinkles. Where the wrinkles exist, that's from dehydration. Period. It's from dehydration. Yep, I'm familiar with the damage from sunlight. I've caused quite a bit of it myself from overdoing it. Okay. But it doesn't cause wrinkles. Dehydration does. Okay. I'm familiar with, all the stuff people talk about in your skin. Oh, it's not about that. You need more collagen. Guess what your body does? It produces collagen. But it only produces enough collagen when you're hydrated. Hydration is the key. It is the key. Absolutely, 100%. That's the key. All right. Anna says, fast with Loren. It's a great experience. And I can't wait to fast again. It is you, Anna. It's much more easier to go without food for such a long time with supervision. And he has a good sense of humor, which makes the whole process easier. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. Okay, good. Not just oranges and lettuce. I'm so glad to hear that. Oranges are good oranges are amazing. I love them too when they're really good. But there's lots of other things. And of course, we want to keep a variety in our diet all year long, right? So this time of year, we're starting to come into the really good watermelons. I could eat watermelon every day, except that I want to eat peaches and nectarines too, and cherries. So I'm not eating watermelon every day because I only eat once or twice a day. Sometimes I wish I needed to eat 4 meals a day, but I don't want to eat more than I need to, because the more energy you spend eating, as I know Anna, the more energy you spend eating, the faster you age and die. Okay, we don't want to eat any more than we have to. All right, so we want to be clear that we get dehydrated. We get dehydrated from eating conventionally. Okay, that's how we become dehydrated. That's the first step. And we fix that by getting the giant sponge of old material out of the small intestine. It's not in the large intestine. They do not open the small intestine when they do autopsies unless they have some specific reason to. In a typical autopsy, most bodies don't get autopsied, but when they do, they don't open the small intestine. So when they tell you there's no old waste in the colon, that doesn't mean anything. It's not in the colon. It's in the small intestine. That's where it gets stuck. Okay, we know that. That's where it gets stuck. It is definitely there, definitely. And if you fast with me and you're coachable, you will eliminate pounds and pounds of it. And then, and only then, will your hydration reach the highest levels. You can eat perfectly, okay? And in fact, it's interesting because fruitarians who eat well, eat high water content, fruits mostly, and simple salads, because some fruitarians are, still eating a lot of dried fruits and a lot of nuts and seeds, and that's not eating well. We're not meant for those things. But even if you're eating a mostly high water content diet, but at the same time, you are, if you're drinking ample water, you're a little bit better hydrated on average than the person eating conventionally. And that's because the impact of this giant sponge is so significant that even with the best diet, you only improve your hydration a little bit. But if you're fruitarian, even if you're eating perfectly and you are not drinking water, and this has become an increasing trend where fruitarians think, well, I'm getting all the water I need for my food. I don't need to drink water. If you're not drinking water, you are in the second most dehydrated group I have seen. Okay, the only people more dehydrated are people who are dry fasting. When you dry fast, you make your body dangerously dehydrated. And this is the key. I mean, people don't understand this, right? The doctors out there, the Russian doctor, I read his book, translated in English, they don't understand this at all. I mean, doctors, what do they understand? Most of them, not very much, okay, about health. Okay. What they understand is, most of them, well, the symptom's gone, therefore you're better. No, that doesn't, it's not logical. It doesn't work. Symptoms are evidence your body's cleansing or healing. Okay. If the symptoms go away because you've given the body the chance to cleanse and heal, great. But most people eliminate their symptoms not because they've allowed the body to heal, but rather because they've suppressed symptoms. People suppress symptoms with pharmaceuticals. They suppress symptoms with herbs. They're toxic substances, folks. They can't heal you. Your body heals itself. Okay. They suppress symptoms when they drink their own pee. I know it sounds disgusting, but there are people who actually do this. Okay. Why would that suppress symptoms? Because pee is how we detoxify the body. Most toxins leave the body through the urinary tract. Okay. Your kidneys are filtering all the garbage out of your blood. It goes into your bladder. You pee it out. And if you drink the stuff that your body chose to get rid of, I mean, I don't understand how that's not completely obvious to everyone, right? Your virtually intelligent body said, you know what? Let's get rid of this stuff. And these geniuses say, yeah, but I'm going to drink it again anyway. Why would you do that? You're not smarter than your body. Okay. Your body knows exactly what it's doing. The way I've helped so many people, more than 16,000 people, create from 156 countries, create amazing levels of health, right? The reason that I've gone now 38 years without being sick is I get out of the body's way. I don't manipulate the body. I don't do unnatural things. I don't drink water that comes from a machine when I've got spring water available. Now, you have to make sure that the spring water you're drinking is actually safe to drink. But if it's coming out of a machine, it's not better than nature's perfect water. Not ever, okay? It's ridiculous to suggest that it is. These are people who do not understand health if they're telling you need distilled water, okay? You don't eat anything unnatural. You don't eat supplements. I don't take any. Zero supplements. Zero. Okay. Now, you may need them, don't get me wrong. If you live in London or Portland or Seattle or Stockholm, okay, many other places where there's not enough sun, you might need to take vitamin D because it's a hormone your body needs and you can't produce it without sunlight. So you might have to take it. Okay. You might need to take B12 because if your body's not functioning properly, your gut biome is making all the B vitamins every single day. In fact, bacteria on your tongue, B12 is made by bacteria. On the folds of your tongue, you've got more B12 than you need every day. The problem is that most people aren't absorbing it. And the reason for that is because, guess what? They're dehydrated. So the key is to get the body hydrated, okay? I have taken 0 supplements in over 32 years, and I don't consume animal products. Okay, now it might explain the brain damage, I don't know. But we don't need this stuff. Okay, now you might need it temporarily until you get your body as healthy as possible. When your body's working well, you should not need vitamin D if you have sunlight. Okay, I'm going to stay in places where I can get enough sunlight. Okay, when I've done all my calls, I'm going to go sit in the sun for half an hour. Every day, I'm going to get sun if there's sun. Every single day. Okay, because That's how we get our body the vitamin D that we must have. And supplementing is not as good. Science is clear. The more supplements you take of vitamin D, the higher the risk of bone fracture. Crazy, because we need vitamin D to have healthy bones, but not from supplements. The more B12 you supplement with, the higher the risk of death from all causes. Okay, supplements are not the way. The way is to get the body healthy enough that we get all of our needs met from our diet, like 25 million other species who don't need supplements, okay, to be healthy. They're all much healthier than we are. They don't need supplements. Why would we? We wouldn't if we make the right choices. Okay, this is why I haven't taken a supplement in 32 years, and I won't take any more. I mean, I will if I need to, but if I need to, it means I'm doing something wrong. Okay, that's what you want to understand. So we get the body hydrated only when we get all this mucoid plaque out of the system, and it's there. Absolutely, it's there. And every time you eat or drink, it's absorbing water. You have to get rid of it in order to get hydrated. Okay. Now, why do people say, there are people out there who say drinking water dehydrates them? And I mean, I understand why they say that, because when they drink water, their mouth gets dry. They feel more dehydrated. Okay. But can drinking water make you dehydrated? Isn't hydration about how much water is in the body? It is. Drinking water doesn't dehydrate you. But if the giant sponge, in fact, this is how fruitarians who drink enough water are only a little bit better hydrated than most people, and fruitarians who don't drink enough water are not as well hydrated as average people. Okay, the reason why is very simple. A high water content diet activates the giant sponge, so it's absorbing water from your food and drink. If the old stuff in here stays hard and dry, it's not absorbing anything, not absorbing very much. And so you can get by. I mean, people complete fast at True North with 2 liters of water. But my clients drink 4 times that much. Okay? Because they need to. And if they don't, they feel the difference. Because once we start activating that giant sponge, we can tell that the body needs that. Now, how much I said they drink 4 times, it's different for each person. You have to properly understand how to interpret vital signs. There are people out there supervising fast who have no clue what I'm talking about. You should not be putting yourself in their hands. Okay? Someone twisted what I said last week, I think, or on a podcast. I forget where it was. Oh yeah, you can only fast with Loren. No one else can ever understand this. I've never said that. I've never said that. What I've said is there are very few people out there who understand it right now. Most people don't. Okay, the people supervising fast are dehydrated. I mean, there are 4 or 5 of them who have fasted with me. I've measured their hydration levels. I know how hydrated they are. I can see looking at them. I can tell from their body odor if their bodies are clean or not. Got to get the body clean in order to get hydrated. Okay? You've got to do that. That's what needs to happen. Now, I know many of you have said, I really want to do this. I can't afford it yet. Folks, get creative. Figure out a way to make it happen. It's the single most beneficial thing you can do for yourself. Okay? I'm happy to share information. If you want to keep coming back every week, I'll be happy to keep sharing information with you. But you need to fast long enough and properly to actually get the results that you want. You can feel and function better than you ever have. I can virtually guarantee you that. Unless it's so late that your body can no longer recover at all, you're going to take your health to an amazing new level. Okay, that's what happens. But you have to fast long enough and properly. How much water is enough? What I'm telling you is we have to properly interpret daily vital signs. And very few people know how to do that. Now, once you get your body fully hydrated, then you listen to your body. You drink when you're thirsty. I don't drink nearly as much water as most of my clients need to because I've already cleaned out the garbage. Okay? Most people haven't done that yet. Once you get that done, then you can listen to your body's signals. See, people tell me, well, I listen to my body. I drink when I'm thirsty. Okay, it reminds me of the client, and I've told the story before, who several years ago decided he was going to fast on his own because he didn't think he needed as much water as I thought he needed. So he fasted on his own. He wasn't drinking enough water. He wound up in the hospital not only severely dehydrated, but one of the results of dehydration is your blood becomes thicker and therefore abrasive to your kidneys, which are very sensitive tissue. He wound up destroying his kidneys. They said he had 3% kidney function. Okay. And he was in the hospital for 4 months recovering as a result of fasting on his own. Now, most people don't wind up in the hospital, but they don't come close to getting the same results, and they put themselves in real danger. Okay. He fasted with me, by the way, a year later, and we completely healed his kidneys through fasting properly with enough water. He came back to me and said, I'll drink whatever you tell me to drink this time. Okay. But I can't tell you how much is enough because it's different for every person. We have to properly interpret daily vital signs to know. Once you get hydrated, I take you through the process, and now you can listen to your body, then you'll be fine. Okay, if you're listening to your body. But you can't listen to your body until you get the body clean. That doesn't work. Does things like GLP-1 from teas reduce appetite? Yeah, they probably do reduce appetite. But we don't want to, I mean, teas also contain caffeine. They contain things that are harmful to us. So you don't want to suppress your appetite. You want to get your body healthy and clean, eat right, and then it's not an issue. You don't have to worry about your weight. Okay, you don't have to worry about trying to reduce appetite in order to lose weight. That's not necessary. Do you put salt on your salad? No, absolutely not. Salt is toxic to the body. Okay, and this is super confusing. And again, it ties right into the hydration piece. Okay, we need to have sodium, chloride, and potassium in the body for the heart and circulatory system to work properly. But let's talk about sodium chloride, not potassium, but sodium chloride. That's salt, isn't it? Well, salt is sodium chloride, a compound molecule made of these two inorganic molecules, inorganic atoms, right? It's a crystal. I don't have a salt lamp here yet, but you've probably seen one. Doesn't look delicious. It's not food. It's a crystal. It looks like a rock. It's very similar to diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and sapphires. They're all inorganic crystals, and quartz. They're all inorganic crystals. They're not food for us. Yes, we need organic sodium and organic chloride. How do we get it? I've mentioned already today some things, some ways. Lettuce, tomatoes, celery has much more, but lettuce and tomatoes have some. Watermelon has some sodium. Okay. We get the minerals we need from eating whole foods, fresh, raw foods, because when we cook, we destroy some of the nutrients. Okay. And if the food's not organic, then it's not going to have a lot of the nutrient content because it's the bacteria in the soil, beneficial soil organisms, special bacteria that help the plant convert those inorganic minerals into organic plant tissue. So we need to be consuming organic food in order to get the nutrients that we need. Okay, which is why virtually everything I have is organic. And I say virtually because every once in a while I won't be able to find something. Avocados are so minimally sprayed that I'll buy inorganic avocados if that's all that is, or if they're better looking than the organic ones. But like with strawberries, grapes, apples, three things I don't have right now, cherries, tomatoes, lettuce. I mean, these things are pretty heavily sprayed. I wouldn't eat them if they're not organic. Okay, buy organic food. And again, if your budget doesn't allow for it, you want to get creative and figure out how to change that. Okay, don't waste money on things you don't need. Okay, do you have a cable subscription? I guess no one does. I don't know if people have cable anymore, but I would cancel it. Okay, I would look and see where are you spending money that's not necessary, because what's more important than your health? My money goes mostly into buying high quality food because that's the most important thing there is. Okay, I mean, obviously you want to live where the air is as clean as possible. You want to make sure you're drinking high quality water. I spend money on spring water in glass bottles, but no salt. I don't own salt. There is no salt here. Actually, there might be because this is a short-term rental. It might have already been in the kitchen with coffee and other things I don't touch. There's a cabinet full of stuff. It's all in the cabinet. I don't need to look at it. I took the coffee maker. You can't see from this angle. I took the coffee maker, which was on the counter, and put it on top of a high cabinet because I'm never going to touch that. I don't need that. Okay, so there might be some salt here, but it's not mine, and I won't use it. Not at all. Not at all. All right. We are just about out of time. I've got a group call at 1 o'clock, so I'll need to be going on the dot today. Usually start with 4 liters, but do you think some people probably need much more? Yeah, well, we know they do. So I don't know what people need until we start, until we see their numbers. So I ask everyone to drink 4 liters at the beginning of the process, and then we see how they do. And if on day 2 we can see that wasn't enough, then I ask them to bring it up. But we have to understand what the numbers mean so we know what they need to do. We don't have to make any assumptions. I can easily interpret the real numbers that tell me how someone's doing, Amir. Okay? So when do you remember? Because I wanted to ask Willett. I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. Things. When do you remember? Yeah, yes, they affect us, but we don't need tea if that's what you're talking about. All right. Would water enemas be a good support for fasting? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay. What enemas and colonics do is they flush out the beneficial bacteria that live in your colon. This is your second brain. Okay. We don't want to flush this out. We need these bacteria. We need this. Okay. We can't survive without bacteria. And the bacteria that live in the colon are critically important to your health. So I would not do an enema or a colonic. Okay. The only exception is if I've got someone that has a mass sitting right there, they can't get rid of it. They know it's there and they can't get rid of it. They know it's right there, not somewhere, but right there at the back door, and they can't get rid of it. It's too large, too hard, too painful, whatever. They can't eliminate it. And they're in pain, significant pain. I would say, okay, go ahead and do an enema, but only once, no more than necessary, because this is the last thing we want to do. Okay, we don't want to manipulate the body in any way. We want to get out of the body's way. Okay, that's the key to health. Folks, got to go. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead of you. I hope this has been useful to you. Hydration is the single most important key. You've got to be hydrated to feel and function well. Hydration is the key to staying young looking and functioning, right? I mean, much what we think of as aging, not gray hair, not balding, but wrinkles, joint problems, memory problems, vision issues. All of these things occur as people age, primarily because of chronic dehydration. So we keep the body hot, we get the body hydrated, or we get the garbage up by fasting long enough and properly, okay? And then we make optimal choices and we stay hydrated, and it's amazing what happens. All right? Have a fantastic rest of your week. Beautiful weekend. I'll look forward to seeing you same time next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.